As you know, no final decision is made
Right.
until the ordinance is before you, so you can see it actually as it's written and have things stricken or bolded or if they're added. Am I getting that's what you want for the
Yes,
draft?
please. Okay. Any other discussion on this ordinance?
I'd still like to see 5A and B removed. Section 5, 1A and B. I'd like to see all of section 5 deleted, really, but as I go and drive through all the other little towns, Jameson looks the best, and we haven't even put these into enforcement yet. Jameson looks good because the people here care about Jameson. They care about their property. And I don't think we need to tell them what to do with it. They're doing it.
I think to require lawns to be 8 inches puts a hardship on the people in the town. I think it's an unreasonable requirement.
You got your unreasonable person here.
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion on that?
I don't find it unreasonable.
When I okay, I just want to express it. When I took the petition around for the enforcement officer, because people ask me, well, what are you going to be enforcing? We're going to be enforcing that your lawns are 8 inches tall. Now, we were short at the time. Oh, the officers need to be that picky. That was the #1 issue that everybody had. You mean to tell me you're going to dictate how tall our grass has to be? And we have discussed this many times. It was not only the people in houses, but it's also virgin property needed to be 8 inches tall.
That's not what this says.
Oh no, pasture land in this thing has to be mowed and,
Once
Vacant
a year.
land shall mean unimproved land having no man-made structures except fencing. It does not apply.
And you amended
But then
that
A
because
and
there
B
was,
does apply, saying that used for haying or growth, that they have to bale, roll,
yeah, you're not,
store at least once a year.
you're telling people they have to mow their pasture land.
Well, if they're pasturing, don't you think it's going to be grazed down?
Beth, I'm a perfect example of that. I have little lots here and there, and I maintain them to the benefit of the best possible feed for my horses, but not necessarily, I mean, I'm with her on that one. I'm taking care of my property so that I can provide food for my animals, and I know how to do that, but it may not meet this requirement.
But don't they eat it down at least once a year?
You know, right now, it's just like right now, no, I'm leaving it so that I'm going into the winter, you know, they eat it as they get moved around.
But this says that it's going to be grazed down or cut at least once per year. So if they're going to graze it down once a year, it doesn't fit.
So can we mow our grass once a year?
See, I may not put them there now. I mean, typically I
And within
do.
a whole year, for a whole year, you would.
Right there by
So
Worley,
just say
where
that's
I've had him.
does.
Haven't put anything next to him. I did across the street from Brent Hartman, but I've got that 3 lots there between Jim and Mr. Worley. Nothing's been in it. Now, I did mow it primarily because that's how I maintain it. Then it doesn't go to seed with the wrong kind of grass. But I may or may not put a horse on it at all this year. But it's there for that purpose. And so I maintain it to the best possible so that the land serves my purpose, not maybe aesthetically for the people that are living there.
And I understand you to say the reason you do mow it is because it is for the best use of your horses.
Yeah, so that I get,
That's
horses
nice.
can't eat grass this tall.
Then
But
why do we need an ordinance for her to
Yeah.
determine what the best
right, it's
care of
my
her land
property,
is?
leave me alone.
And isn't there grass around your property, Beth, that's taller than 8 inches?
That's been
Or
moved to
does
the
that put you in
first.
danger?
Are you telling me or asking me?
No, I'm asking you.
I choose not to respond, I don't wanna get into it, it's not, I'm not arguing about whether it should be here or not, or whether it should be enforced, so I don't think that matters.
Well, I want to
I'm
make
not
another
objecting.
statement, and I'm not, I have to be very careful how I say this. If this is not, if Section 5 is not considered by every member of this board, and I'm the only one that has an argument against it, I know that this town feels like the board is not listening to them, or they don't care what the town thinks.
Some of us do.
Well, I'm hearing from Mary, and it just came out, it's huge to me, was she maintains her land. This isn't for people who don't maintain the land. This isn't for people that, we're a farming community. They're gonna, there's a maintenance of land, whether your grass is 8 inches or 12 inches or what it happens to be, if that's the best way to be maintained at that time, and you're a property owner that's maintaining your land in a fashion, it's different than a property that's forgotten, neglected, not maintained whatsoever. And that's how I see it, and the biggest thing I hear is maintain properties. I don't think this is, and that's not where I see this, the purpose or I'm sure the word I'm looking for,
Intent.
there you go, the intent of the ordinance is not for, property owners that maintain their land or the farmers that take care of their land. And
Could we write it better then? Could it be written better? Clearer?
how would you propose to write it better?
Well,
Please,
Can you rip the top of my head?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
Truthfully, the way
personally.
you set it up is the only way that it's gonna be a problem is if somebody comes and complains about it. And as long as,
Nobody's complaining.
if nobody's complaining because my grass is 12 inches tall instead of 8 inches tall, it's not a big deal.
Now,
Truthfully,
It's not a big deal until somebody does complain.
well,
Natalie,
then you say, okay, well, I'm gonna get it mowing or whatever.
Madam
get it
Chair,
mowing or
Natalie,
whatever.
Madam Chair, I don't know how to address you, but could I make a comment? That particular lot that I'm talking about right there, it's in violation of this right now. It's taller than 8 inches. If somebody wanted to complain, I would be in violation of that.
And hasn't been shorter than 8 inches in a year.
When I mowed it this year, I mow with my clear to the top, Beth, and I don't know how high that rate goes because I'm
About
knocking the
12
top
inches.
off. And right now today, it has been mowed. It's longer than that.
So.
But I'm still back to Dave. I'd like to ask you. You sound reasonable on this. It's like, so, well,
Yeah.
you did sound reasonable,
Well,
and that's so
thank
a
you.
reasonable person. I wanted to ask you, in that case, the land. That's the only reason I've got these little chunks of land here and there because they serve my purpose. I've purchased them. I've paid for them. I maintain them. I pay the taxes on them, and I don't think that that's hurting anyone. Now, by picnic time, as a consideration to the town, if I haven't got there, generally by the 4th, I mow this place over here. By the picnic, I mow it so that it looks presentable for the community when you have the picnic. That's a courtesy that I do. I may not have time to do it. I've actually paid somebody to do it. If I wasn't here, let them use my tractor. But seriously, do we need this ordinance is my question. Who's in violation? What's the beef about that? Ernie had his lot here. Did he? I don't know what we're talking about specifically. But the way it's written, it applies to me, and I'm in violation right now.
Except you just said you mowed it for the picnic, which has been in the past year, so I don't get it.
So where does it say?
That's an
So you
extension.
only have to do it once in the year to
Shall be
comply.
cut, baled, or rolled, or stored at least once per year on vacant land used for hay.
What I don't
Grass is
understand,
used for grazing, the grass shall be grazed down or
Cut.
cut at least once per year.
what I don't understand is how the yard across from me, which is Mary's pasture, how it only needs to be mowed once a year, but my yard has to be mowed however many times it takes to keep it under 8 inches. Why is it okay for her across the street, but not okay for me to maintain my yard at 10 inches? I think my grass is better at 10 inches than at 8 inches.
Well, that comes back to me where I hear the word maintained. If your property is maintained, I mean, I can't see someone coming and, you know, saying 2 inches of grass growth or height is unreasonable because, you know, it's maintained. There's a purpose to your maintaining it that way, and maybe that should be something that's added to this ordinance if we decide to keep it as it is, to have the word maintain put in there. I'm not sure exactly where it would fit, but that's the thing I keep hearing is property that's maintained. Like the property next to Worley where Mr. Worley where the log cabin is. I'm not sure what that is or whose that is, but that's a property that's not really.
We maintain it between Worley and I.
Yeah, but that's out of choice, you know.
That's right. It's out of choice.
That's right. That's my free agency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trespass and do it, right? Because it needs to be done.
Right.
It's not trespassing.
Not trespassing.
It's not posted.
Because you own it?
No, but if you hostily occupy it and improve it over 7 years, you do owe it. So I could be going for that. You know.
Will you? I
That
know.
was more. That was Utah.
A little bit more to it than that.
I should fence it. Yes. Which I did have
So
to
at the very
fence.
bottom, this could be rewritten better.
Sorry, thank you. And I-
Suggestions?
You want to bring something to us?
What is the purpose of this anyway?
The real intent of this, if it is for abandoned property owners, I don't think it addresses it, and it puts all the rest of us under the radar for something that might be needed by somebody who's not here, not taking care of their stuff.
I watched him for 2 months.
I would like to make a suggestion. Now, you asked me to bring something. I brought things. I don't even get a second. I think the board should sit down and hammer it out together. So that when it is presented, there's an agreement. Rather than just me always being a floor and every side.
Well, I guess I would say that I think boards in the past have gone through and hashed this out, and this is what they came up with. So if this board wants to change it,
Yeah.
then this board needs to have words that someone proposes to change it. That's what,
Okay.
And that's what you brought, Les? That's not, I didn't see what you brought.
Not this, no, we didn't ever get this
Oh,
one.
okay.
Madam Chairman, I would like to propose that the board come together at some point and come up with a better way of saying Section 5, dealing with weeds, grass, brush, bush, non-maintenance, absent property owners, get that managed.
It would be nice, Orianne, if we could do that, but we can't get together as a board and decide what to do without everybody here because it's against the rules. And we can't do that, and that's what makes it so extremely hard. And why in the world do you think that we don't care? Because we just don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. And what is your agenda? What is your agenda, Mary? What is your agenda, Brent? What do you hope or wish that we would do for you? And what do you think that the board is supposed to do? And do you want us to just mark out all of the ordinances and have a review panel and don't do anything about anything unless somebody complains about it, and then have the review panel come and talk to us and we negotiate our, another word for, with who's the person that has complained and that they're complaining about, and see if they can't work it out and just forget about the board and not have a board. And if you don't want to have a board, well then, or if you want to run for office, then put your name in and run for office and see how you can do it. I just don't understand what your agenda is. I don't know what you're trying to tell us. And I cannot understand why any of you think that we don't care, because that's not the truth. We have nothing to gain by telling Mary that she's not maintaining her property or any. Why would I do that?
So that I could be fined? I don't know.
Yeah,
Why don't you
$500.
make an ordinance for it? And I probably
You just don't want us to have any ordinances.
No, that's not,
it.
nobody's ever said that.
Aletha, can I clarify something? Because your question brought my mind to another statement I have. I think the villagers want you to protect our personal property rights, not usurp our personal property rights and tell us what we should or shouldn't do. And that's the difference. We don't feel like you're coming at it from a point of protecting our personal property rights.
What do
It's
you
like
feel?
the ordinance, these ordinances are saying, we know what's best and you need to do it this way, instead of respecting and protecting our personal property
And
rights.
if you don't do it, then we're gonna send armed agents out to your house.
Well, I would like to clarify that. I know that I have worked with this agency for this group for 5 years. I work with a whole bunch of little towns. It is my job to do the prosecution. In 5 years, we have never collected a penny in fines. Not a penny. Nobody wants anyone's money. And we don't set the fine. It is up to the judge, even if it were. And the very top end is 500. I suspect it would be more like 20. But that is not the goal. And in the very few times I think we have maybe filed in the county in 5 years, maybe 3 violations. 2 of those violations were taken care of before we ever got to court, that's always my goal. Always my goal. And all of those things that we've done had to do with the health and welfare of the town. It's not about, never has anyone said, well, your lawn's 10 inches. I mean, nobody, it's
So
there
why do
to
we
say,
need it?
it's there as a guideline. And I guess, I don't know, I didn't make them. That's not my job. I'm just saying that in 5 years as a prosecutor for 5, 6, and other little towns outside of the county, never, and there are other little towns, I filed several violations. We have never taken them to conclusion because we've continued them over, sometimes for 6 months, to give those landowners an opportunity to clean up the debris that is harboring rats, that is harboring unhealthful conditions, that is proving an attraction to the kids to come and climb on. And we give them time to clean it up. And by the time it gets to the final, I dismiss it. Except for, and one time, even when there was a fine, not in this county, but we gave them 2 more months, that if you get it cleaned up in 2 months, like a probation, you get it cleaned up, you don't pay the fine. And that's what happened. Never have we collected a penny from anyone in 5 years. In 5 years, we filed maybe 3, maybe only 2. The whole goal is that people know they're there, and it's there for their protection, not for their harassment, for their protection, to make the towns better for the people that live in the town, to give them an option to help clean up things that, the person that moves next door to you lets it go. It's a trailer and they've thrown all their trash out the back door. And I know that is the one case that I guess it was before me that you had to deal with. But never in 5 years have we ever filed anything on any of these things that you guys are talking about. It is there because, as you said, most people do. And if their grass gets 2 inches taller, is someone going to swoop in? No. But if it gets this high and it has rats in it, which sometimes it does, then the city can come in and make sure that you are safe and protected. That is the intent. That is my intent as a prosecutor. But if you think that we are collecting money, never. And if something gets filed, then they Well, we'll give you 2 months to get that cleaned up. I need a little more time because you've had trouble in your health or whatever, then you can have 2 more months. The goal is not to take anyone's money. It's not to make anyone.
Why is it in there? If it's not to take people's money, why is the money taking part in there?
In the event that there is someone who comes in and move in a trailer house. They live there for a couple years. They're horrible. They throw their trash out the back door. When you file the violation, they move out of town. It's a way to get them back in to make them clean up their property so that there aren't rats running around and you don't have to worry about your kids. And the people next door don't have to smell the smell of rotting garbage. Now, you may not have it here, but I know in a lot of little towns we attract those kind of individuals. I know, I live in one. And it's necessary to have those kind of things that if you need to come in, you can. It's not aimed at your 10-inch grass, or it's not
If
aimed.
it's not aimed at it, why does it say 8 inches?
I think they just look at what they would, maybe it's just what they think they would like to see. And I'm talking about
Because
everyone.
you're talking about safety.
It is about safety, and it is also about
But then
having
it
a town that
crosses
looks
over into
nice.
aesthetics.
I'm getting off track. I'm just saying, we've never collected a penny. Never. Not the intent. Ever. And I'm the one who files it.
So would it be okay to take the money part out then? If that's
No.
not the intent? Why?
Because if you get that person that moves in and has the big pile of garbage, what is the incentive to get them to clean it up?
Well, we have a plan for that.
Well, so
Madam Chairman, just, it seems like people have fixated on the word grass, and they're interpreting it as lawns. From my recollection of your earlier discussions, lawns were never the issue. The issue was having a baseline upon which if something got way out of hand, you'd have something defined to be able to say this is well in excess of. And the intent it was, as I'm recollecting earlier discussions, was more having to do with unmaintained weeds and brush and wild grasses, not lawn grasses. That was never the intent. It certainly might be possible to write it better. I do not have any suggestions at this point. But the fixation on lawns is not related to what your intent was or is based on anything I've ever heard.
But that's what the wording says,
Yeah,
right?
I do understand what you're saying. And I understand the fear that the absolute interpretation of this could result in someone looking at lawns. And that's why I'm saying, there might be a better way to write it. But I don't have any suggestions at this point as to how to do it. But if you don't have some kind of baseline, some kind of level that deals with the unruly weeds and brush and wild grasses, then you don't have anything concrete that you can base a decision on a completely out of control situation. So
We couldn't go back to appeal to reasonable common sense.
Couldn't we?
back to the reasonable man.
In a community that's
Couldn't
out
we,
of control.
There you go.
Couldn't we hold the? Oh, sorry.
I thought the intent originally was for accident owners who didn't take care of their property and to clean up that property instead of enforcing it upon the people who do take care of their property. I thought that was the original intent.
Well, you can't just do selective enforcement.
I understand that, but I thought that was,
And in our situation, for the most part, that is
that's right.
that is
That
the
was
way
what-
that it works. But you can't only enforce it for people who've abandoned their
Why
you
can't we?
can't.
Why can't we?
You can't
use
use
the
selective
ordinance?
enforcement.
That's not a selective.
Could we just hold everybody's lawns to the same standard that Mary's Pasture is held to, where they had to mow it once a year?
So choose a motion, do you have something that you want to do?
Otherwise, it's selective enforcement there, because her grass can be at 12 inches and it's fine. My grass is at 10 inches and it's not.
Get a goat. Chickens don't count.
I spent 20 years in the Navy, and part of that 20 years, we had a uniform code of military justice that was not looked at very kindly at first. But it works in the military, and we have one captain that has captain's mast maybe once a week. Now, you could have someone here once a week maybe, but he passed it on to others. No court-martials. He could assign a court-martial. I did court-martials, but they were after the captain had his say-so. So if we had some person that would say, have a say-so, and then be looked at and voted on by all as a group.
That's kind of the
Isn't that your
enforcement.
panel?
That's
That is
our
our
process.
original
That's our
enforcement
process.
officer.
That's what's in
What
this
to do.
now, is to have a 3-person panel, somebody writes a
Yeah.
complaint and sends it, and then the panel goes and looks at it.
That's the only way you're going to get it to work.
And that's in here, so.
I'm speaking of experience on the UCMJ.
Okay.
I don't know where to go from here.
Now,
So there would just be
Chairwoman,
these days.
can I just suggest that on this, why don't you just go on to the rest of whatever else you have to discuss and see if anybody can, put their mind to it with the discussion that you've had, see if anybody can come up with some language that might be an improvement. I mean, it seems clear to me that the issue is finding a way to define, and I don't know how to do it, so. But the issue is finding a way to define what constitutes unmaintained and unruly property, and without using the word grass in a way that is perceived to apply to lawns. I don't know the answer to it. I don't know how to define it. I know you need a baseline somewhere, but I don't know how to define it at this point. But maybe some bright person can come up with something.
I propose we table this until we get
And everybody can work
Progress.
on trying to come up with wording to,
I just suggest you finish off the other portion of it, if you're satisfied with the rest of it, based on what already has been decided, and just delay that particular section for one more meeting, and at that point, you probably have to make a decision somewhere. But for one more meeting to see if there's any wording anybody can come up with that might help.
okay. Is that the general consensus? Is everybody in agreement with moving on from?
She said table to go.
All right. Okay. Where's my agenda? Where are we at?
61, page 61.
Page 61, administrative warrants.
Yeah. So the heat's on.